Hello, everybody. This is TK O'Geary, and I am with you on the virtual support session for Pathways. This is April 26th. We are well into our launch of Pathways, and I hope every single one of you have gone ahead and had either encouraged somebody in your club or be the one to go ahead and start down the path of Pathways. There's so much to learn. So just as a reminder, how we're going to run this is we're going to have, I'll do a little Q&A and some reminders, share some information, and then take questions. If for any reason we run over 30 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and terminate the meeting and have us all re-log back in because I'm using the free version of Pathways, and that way we don't all get cut off. If we have too many people on, they cut us off at 40 minutes. So let's get started. So I had this suggestion last week, and I'm going to repeat it here tonight because it really is something powerful. Please encourage at least one person in your club, or be that person, to progress through level 1 on their path. Now, why is this important? Well, first of all, Toastmasters went through a lot of effort and listening and working with us throughout the world and the learning ambassadors and people to create a program that is just much more powerful than the paper manuals we had before and that sort of thing. So encourage somebody to take advantage of that. And when you do that, then you're going to find out what works and what doesn't work. So the member of the Vice President of Education or their delegates for Base Camp Manager, President, and Secretary will also have the experience of going through the process, and lots of learning will occur. For example, in one of the clubs I'm in, we thought we were smart. We thought we were going to put the email address from Free Toast Host into the Find a Club email address. And that way, if anybody wanted to find out more about the club and they clicked on it, it would go to all the officers. And if somebody had a Base Camp Manager activity, it would go to all the officers. We thought that was fantastic. Unfortunately, in Free Toast Host, if you're going to send anything to a group within Free Toast Host, you have to be sending from a valid email address inside of that club in Free Toast Host. So Toastmasters International is not a member of our club, so it did not work. And as it turns out, we also had somebody inquiring about the club on the same night we were testing this out, and they went to the phone number and said, I'm getting a bounce back. Are you guys still meeting? So don't use a Free Toast Host. Don't use the Easy Speak. Use either a generic Gmail address that all of your officers can access, or at least the Vice President of Education, President, or Secretary, and whoever you want to have answering those inquiries from Find a Club. But make sure that that's an email that everybody can get to. And it's really important to be accessible by more than one person, because there might be a few people that are like me. I finish a level, I submit everything, and I'm ready to start on the next level. But it just may be I'm in a club that the Vice President of Education checks their emails once a day at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I've got to wait for that. Now, granted, I've got to think ahead as a member, but there will be some members like that. So as soon as you go through the process, you're going to find out what works, what doesn't work, and how it's going to work best for your club. And then as of last week, there were 17 Pathways achievements from 10 people across 5 clubs. So either a lot of you are either not ready to dip your toe into that water, or you are started and just haven't gone through level 1. I strongly encourage you to try and at least get one person through level 1 sooner than later, so that you can take advantage of these virtual support sessions and also find out what works in your club. So as a reminder, unfortunately, you cannot go check this out right now in the Toastmasters.org website, because Toastmasters International is going through the final major relocation activities this weekend. So starting today, April 26th, through Sunday, April 29th, they've not given us the time, you're not going to be able to access a lot of the parts of the Toastmasters.org website. Club Central, District Central, Find a Club, My Profile, Shop, Base Camp, current magazine issues, recognition dashboards, and Pathways. So just know that you will need to wait till sometime on Sunday, maybe Sunday night, but certainly by Monday morning, everything should be up and running. So just be aware of that and give it a shot on Monday and check it out. So just as a little bit of a refresher, the old program, because that says current, but this is what we used to have. And some people may be working through this because we have 2 years to complete anything that you are using in the current or the traditional program chart. So you've got a new member coming in, there's the leadership path, there's the communication path, and then you achieve your Distinguished Toastmaster. So there's a couple of manuals in here, educational achievements, you got to do either a speechcraft or a youth leadership, got to be an officer, then a district officer, and you get your Distinguished Toastmaster. So on the new Pathways environment, you have a new member come in, they get to choose a path and work through levels, and then they choose another path and work through those levels. Now here's the cool thing, you can work through 2 levels at the same time. If you are a member of more than 2 or more clubs, when we launched in District 23, which is Region 3, then you can get your 2 paths for free. Anybody who joined the day after the live launch gets their first path for free, and they'll have to pay for their second path. So just know that if you're in 2 or more clubs, you get a second path for free. How do you get that? Well, because that's a one-off, it's only during rollout, you need to call Toastmasters International and request your second path, or email supplyorders@toastmasters.org. So then you need to be a club sponsor or do a speechcraft or a youth leadership program, and you can go ahead and check that out and make sure that you work on those so that you can get the credit towards your Distinguished Toastmaster. And then, okay, club mentor or club coach. This is what's a little bit different from the current program. It used to be club mentor, coach, or sponsor to be able to get your credit towards Distinguished Toastmaster. As the design of the new program was coming about, there was recognition that there's really something very different about being a mentor or a coach. You've got a club that's either established or recently or long-term. They need help just making sure that they operate strong and well as a club and do that continual marketing. The sponsor is working to get that started, and a speechcraft is you're also starting from scratch. So that's kind of why they broke these out, or youth leadership. So these are both needed for your Distinguished Toastmaster. It's a little bit different than the current program. Then you also need to be a club officer, and you need to be a district officer. So those haven't changed, although the club officer is a little bit of a longer term. And then you do your DTM project, your Distinguished Toastmaster project, which is like the high performance leadership, but better. And then you get your Distinguished Toastmaster. So that's just a reminder. If you are working on your Distinguished Toastmaster under the current program, just remember you have until June of 2020, June 30, to complete that, all the requirements. Now, if you are a district officer and you are finishing your term on June 30th, then you might be saying, well, how do I do that and turn in my Distinguished Toastmaster? So Toastmasters International said that they will address this on a case-by-case basis, but essentially you can only have that one item outstanding on June 30th to get your Distinguished Toastmaster. It's something that has to be tied to the date. So if you are working on your Distinguished Toastmaster, you need the district officer, know that you need to have every single other requirement completed by June 30th. All right, so let's see. We do have a chat question. Somebody said, oh, had to put on earrings. I love it. Somebody's talking about putting on earrings to attend this. All right, so just remember June 30th, 2020, to complete all of your requirements. If you have any questions, don't know how to get something accomplished, are looking to be a district officer, I believe they're still looking for area directors, go ahead and contact one of your current area directors or your division director, or you can contact any of the current trio. They would love to help you out. Or contact anybody if you're in the Albuquerque area in Tumbleweeds. Tumbleweeds is also looking to help marry up people with opportunities that they need to complete their projects. All right. So just as a reminder, the Pathways versus the current program, Pathways is, it's now becoming our current program for many. And I don't know how I got my little red mark here. Pathways is more relevant. It's up to date, 21st century, and it has a lot of benefits for you. And it builds on experience, fundamentals, learning your style, increasing your knowledge, building your skills and showing your expertise. I was talking with our current program quality director today, Larry Bulow, and both of us were commenting on how we're spending more time preparing for speeches now with Pathways than we were in the current program. So there's lots of opportunities to learn and lots of good material. All right, so somehow I don't know if you can see this red line, but it's going to stay on there. So there's 10 paths available to you. All of these are based on the research that Toastmasters has done, and we hear that there will be more forthcoming. And there are ways to determine how you can choose your path. So there's an assessment you take when you first sign on to Pathways, and you're given an option to either choose any of the paths selected or choose one of your own. So it's completely your choice. It's like Burger King. You can have it your way. Now there's 2 of these out there, Innovative Planning and Presentation Mastery, that if you got into them a little bit, you might think, well, this looks a little familiar. And especially if you're some of the fans of the past Competent Communicator and Competent Leader manual, you're going to say, where did all the good stuff go? Well, all of the good stuff is sprinkled throughout a lot of these paths. Presentation Mastery could be considered similar to the Competent Communicator with much more to offer, and Innovative Planning is somewhat similar to the Competent Leader. So if you're looking to help people and you know those 2 manuals, the Competent Communicator and Competent Leader, then these are manuals that you might guide people towards if you really, really loved those, and people seem to be wanting those. Again, the assessment that you go through with Toastmasters International will also help provide that member with the best choice based on their answers. So other helpful tips: when you are first starting, you can check compatibility with your browser, and you also need to have cookies off. Now, some people get a little nervous about that, and I forget where I heard the recommendation originally, but one of the ideas was that you can use one browser where you've got your cookies turned off for everything, and then you use, like, say, Chrome, and then you use different browsers, say Explorer, for everything else. And that way you can feel comfortable. Although you can just turn cookies off for one site, you can whitelist the site. There are various ways of turning off the cookies just for Toastmasters International. And Toastmasters purchased this platform or use of this platform from a company who's been using this platform for a long time. So it's had a lot of testing, and you can feel comfortable, at least we've been told, with the material being present on your browser. So check compatibility to make sure your browser works with the system, and then you can go through these different tiles. There's Navigating Basecamp is a great first one if you haven't been on Basecamp. Once you've started, there's educational transcripts, feedback that's given to you, the badges that you're earning, and speech evaluations. Now here's something I want to call attention to. Once you have selected a path, your curriculum will be shown in a box kind of in the lower right portion of your screen. What's important is to know that there are 5 lines in that box. Now, I happen to be a Pathways Guide, so I have Pathways Guide's curriculum. I have started down my visionary communication path, so I have that curriculum. As a Pathways Guide, I read the Master Q&A document, which is over, I think it's 1,100 questions and answers. So that's listed there. And then I had selected two other parts of the Pathways environment to go look at. And actually, I take that back, 3 of them. So when I went to go look for my curriculum in my box down here, I couldn't find it for visionary communication, but I could find it in my education transcript. And that's because the curriculum only lists 5 of those curriculums or areas where you can go click on. So if you have looked through, say, like you go through the tutorial of setting up my profile, there's no way to close that out because it's a resource. It's like a book that you keep on your shelf or the sticky note on the bulletin board. You're never really quite done with it. So what you can do is you can archive it, and then it's available. But because you never finish it, it never goes away from that box. So if you archive it, it goes away from the box, no problem. Just know that if you're looking for something, you can't find it here, archive items, or go to your educational transcript. And I believe, oh, there's a pop-out for Navigating Basecamp. I believe that was the last of my slides. I've got somebody up here in the chat room. Let's see. Oh, Mabel says, Larry and I are spending more time preparing. Can you give an idea of what percentage more in the advanced manuals? Already spend a few days, 2 or 3 hours each day. Will it take me a week of nearly daily work to prepare for a speech? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up so that Larry and I can both talk to that. This is one of those things where I love the phrase that when people say, if you get everything out of Toastmasters that you want to get out of Toastmasters, you'll never get out of Toastmasters. And it's all based on what you put into it. So if you wanted to just breeze through the material and create a speech, it's possible. I'm finding that I want to spend a little more time on that. So 2 to 3 hours is not out of line for some of the ones that I've been doing. A couple of them have been a little bit longer. And let me go ahead. Larry, I'm going to unmute you if you want to comment on that as well. Let's see. Did I get?
Yes. Well,
okay, go ahead.
My key point is I have now done 17 competent communicator manuals. I have done about 10 advanced manuals. So I have a repertoire of speeches that are available to me. If someone asks me to speak, I can create that speech on the way to the meeting. So very little time. I might spend 15 to 20 minutes. I've got a polished speech because I've done it multiple times. Now in Pathways, a lot of those speeches that I had in file don't quite fit. So I'm taking probably 3 to 4 hours for a speech. But the comparison is before I had so many speeches in my hip pocket, I didn't need time to prepare. Now I do. And I like that.
Yeah, and I would agree because there's so much additional material. I really want to take full advantage, and I had 34 of the competent communicator manuals, I think is what mine was finally logging in at. So yeah, I could pull one of those off the shelf, grab a manual. I had it, dust off what that speech was, and go for it. So that worked out well in the past, but I really do want to take advantage of it. Let's see. So it sounds challenging. Well, this is where I love Toastmasters material, because if you want to spend a lot of time on it, you can. If you want to spend a little time on it, you can. You're going to get out of it what you put into it. And for some people, a little time is fine. They get what they want out of the program. And if you spend more time on it because you want to do something a little bit more, that's completely up to you. So I don't think there's any mandate in how long you spend on Pathways. It's just completely up to you. So what I'm going to do is see if there's any other questions. And yes, we do remind Mabel of professors that you use yellowed notes, and I have yellowed notes. That is absolutely correct. So I'm going to go ahead and pause recording and see if there's anybody that wants to speak up who has not had an opportunity to and doesn't want to be recorded.